Life starts now. And we kickstart this particular program with Matters Education, where Basic Education Principal Secretary Professor Julius Bitok has confirmed that disciplinary action has been taken against 20 heads of schools following an audit that revealed over 80,000 ghost learners enrolled in public institutions. Speaking before the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee on Tuesday, PS Bitok said the move is part of ongoing efforts to safeguard public resources and ensure accountability in the education sector. Now, he further pledged that an additional measures will be implemented to curb the prevalence of ghost learners across the country.
And from the report we found, we have done quite a number of things. Number one, we have been able to identify all the sub-counties where we suspect there was a problem in terms of the number of students. And as a ministry, we have been able to send show cause letters to 28 sub-county directors of education to explain why in their jurisdictions they were overseeing areas where there is a problem with the issue of the number of learners. The minister has sent a letter to Teacher Service Commission asking TSC to be able to take action against 20 heads of institutions who are suspected to have inflated the number of learners in their schools. So there's a lot we are doing. We have also sent our report to the DCI to do further investigation so that they can be able to establish really who is culpable.
Now, the United Opposition has condemned what it described as planned attempt to disrupt its meetings in Kisii and Nyamira counties, accused the government operatives of mobilizing goons to interfere with the activities during the ongoing Meet the People tour of Gusii land. Opposition leaders attributed the alleged plot to Cabinet Interior Cabinet Secretary, that is Kipchumba Murkomen, and Kisii Governor Simba Arati. Now, the tour, now in its second day, yesterday, has seen key opposition figures including former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Regina Omalwa, and Fred Matiang'i engaged residents at Nyamira Town, Marani Market, Nyakoe Market, Suneka Town, and Nyamarambe Shopping Center. Gachagua reaffirmed his commitment to championing the interest of residents in Rift Valley counties, countering claims that the opposition has neglected local communities.
Nimepitia pale Bomet jana, nikakuta Wakipsigis wanalia, wamesaulika, hawana barabara, hawana maji, hawana elimu, hawana chochote, wanalia. Wajumbe yao wote walinyamaza, walinuliwa na William Ruto. Sasa nimeona pale viongozi ati wananiingilia ni wasitetee Wakipsigis. Wakipsigis ni wa Kenya. Kama wamefika kwangu wanasema ni watetee, wapate barabara, wapate maji, tutaendelea kuwatetea. Siku mimi nimekuwa na Kasongo, aliniambia atalete industrial park hapa. Tukakuja naye hapa Nyamira. Imejengwa ama hakuna? Unajua hii mtu, kwa sababu tulikuwa tunakaa pamoja tukikunywa maziwa na yeye, ile inaitwa musiki pale State Lodge Kisii. Nikamuuliza, na hii maneno yote umeahidi, hii ya industrial park itafanyika namna gani? Akaniambia, wewe Rigiji, acha maneno mengi, hiyo ni siasa. Hiyo ni siasa. Sasa lazima ufurahisha hii wa Kisii. Akaniambia hiyo vitu haiwezekani. Ndio hii mtu mimi nikakosana na yeye kwa sababu alinitumia vibaya. Tunaenda naye mikutano, tunadanganya watu. Mambo ya airport, akasema tufunge Suneka ijengwe Sironga. Kufika pale amepindua, airport ilikuwa ikuje Kisii, amepeleka kwake nyumbani Kirigoris. Sasa wa Kisii hamuna airport. Alafu sasa mtu anakuja kuambia nyinyi ate tutam. Kwani nyinyi ni wajinga?
Na huyu rafiki yetu Mumeru huyu ntaka Kumameru, na hata hawa wote tushikamane. Rigiji, waheshimiwa, my brother Eugene Wamalwa, Ingo yote pamoja na Tembea, Kenya imeshikana. Ruto anajua kudanganya sana. Juzi anaeta mkutano anasema nitawashinda hawa kina Kalonzo na 2 million. Yaani yeye anaota tuli akikuchao. Safari hii hakutakuwa wizi wa kura Kenya. Ruto ajue, ajianze kujiandaa, atoke mapema. Harambee!
Sisi tumeamua tangu jana mtupe huyu Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Tutatembea pamoja, tutaenda bega kwa bega hadi turudishe William Ruto wapi? Tumrudishe wapi? ili turekebishe mambo ya hospitali na afya. Ruto must.
Now, the committee overseeing the implementation of the 10-point agenda and the NADCO report has condemned the resurgence of violence at political rallies, warning that it threatens to reverse hard-won reforms gains envisioned by the head of state and the late Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. In a statement, the five-member oversight team cautioned that rising political intolerance could claw back progress made under the bipartisan framework between the United Democratic Alliance, that is the UDA, and the Orange Democratic Movement. But the agreement established COIN 10 to spearhead and monitor the implementation of the 10-point agenda alongside key proposals contained in the NADCO report.
Kaunti ya Mombasa ni kaunti muhimu sana, baadhi ya kaunti 47 za hapa nchini Kenya, na ni kaunti 001. Tumekuwa na majadiliano na county secretary ambaye ametueleza kwamba utumishi kwa wananchi na wakazi wa Mombasa unavyozidi kuboreshwa kupitia sera za governor, na kwamba hata mapato ya county yanazidi kuboreshwa, na sisi baadhi ya majukumu ambayo tunayo kama kamati ni kuangalia kwamba zile agenda 10 mojawapo ni jinsi ambavyo ugatuzi unaweza boreshwa na kulindwa hata zaidi unaweza fanyika, na county secretary ametupatia njia ambazo na mapendekezo ambayo kwa msimamo wa kaunti na wao kama viongozi wa kaunti tunaweza tilia maanani ili kwamba ripoti yetu ya 10-point agenda inaweza hakikisha kwamba ugatuzi hapa Mombasa na nchini Kenya unalindwa hata zaidi.
For the job they've done in Mombasa County, they've led us through some of the very innovative ways they've been able to ensure, for example, that the clawback in devolution does not happen. We've had these discussions, good ideas that we can also even share with other counties. We are the committee overseeing the implementation of the 10-point agenda and the NADCO report. We've been in various counties, and today we are in Mombasa County going to have the public forum.
According to the county secretary, he shared with us, briefed us on county government of Mombasa is very healthy in terms of inclusivity. He said 49% are women, 51% are male. And he has shared with us that every community is present in this county. I hope that will be a true reflection, because the county government is supposed to give us a report to that effect. The other issue we shared with as a part of 10-point agenda is the issue of right to peaceful assembly. That Kenyans in their constitution, Article 37, provides Kenyans with the opportunity to do peaceful assemblies. And we inquired whether there were some, during the demonstration, some deaths, some destruction of properties, people who have been arrested, and people who have been vandalizing community properties and shops. Of course, he said that Mombasa had a fairly low level of destruction. Of course, there was some arrest, but we also inquired, do we as Kenyans have demonstration in the midst of the business square?
Now, the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has called for the wider adoption of non-custodial sentencing to address Kenya's overcrowded prisons, which currently house over 60,000 inmates, well beyond their capacity. Speaking at the African Continental Conference on decongesting prisons, CS Murkomen stressed the importance of alternative sentencing measures that focus on rehabilitation and community-based solutions rather than incarceration. Now, the conference, which has attracted representatives from across Africa, highlighted the continent's high prison populations and the urgent need for reforms. Delegates discussed strategies to implement innovative sentencing frameworks that decongest facilities while supporting the reintegration of offenders into society.
Across Africa, prison congestion continues to be endemic. Many of our correctional facilities are operating far beyond their intended capacity. This reality has strained our commitment to human rights, placed immense pressure on fiscal resources, and in many cases undermined public safety and rehabilitation. Kenya has, however, made significant strides in embracing progress and humane approaches to justice. Today, a notable proportion of offenders are managed through community supervision.
The importance of having such level of expertise in one room is that you have an opportunity to exchange ideas. The issues on correctional services in Kenya and on community correctional services, community corrections has been properly expounded by our director and the peers. They are true. Mine is to confirm that what they have said is truly the case.
Now, a postmortem examination has confirmed that Consolata Nduko, a Form 3 student at Katolini Secondary School in Machakos County, died from acute pneumonia. The postmortem conducted at Montezuma Macharia in the presence of family and officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, that is the DCI, revealed that Nduko had been suffering from a severe lung infection that had progressively weakened her over time. Now, her death has sparked grief and concern among students, parents, and the wider community, raising questions about how her illness was managed while at school.
Na daktari alijaribu akatuelezea kwamba ni pneumonia. Ilikuwa imeingia kwa lungs na vitu vingi zikaonekana hizo. Hakuna kitu kingine inaonekana. Tunasema pole sana kwa familia, sababu hiyo ni janga imewapata bila kukusudia. Walikuwa na matumaini na huyo mtoto.
Ni kama alikuwa mgonjwa for some days. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi sema mbele ya hapo. Kuna wale wanaweza jibu maswali kama haya. Kile ningeomba, mtoto akionekana ako na shida ya kimwili, apeane kwa mzazi wakati unaofaa.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki visited Embu County to inspect ongoing construction on the Gachoka-Gashwiriri Road in Mbeere South constituency, a critical extension of the 42-kilometer road project valued at 2.7 billion Kenya shillings. The road, which has stalled for years, has resumed following payment of pending bills and a government assurance of adequate funding to complete the project within the next 3 months. At the request of local leaders and residents, the government has also committed to expanding the works to tarmac the Kangeta junction to Kihumbuini Center and the Gashuriri sections, completing the area's bitumen circuit. During the visit, Kindiki held a roadside public sensitization event at Kangeta Shopping Center, engaging residents on the project's benefits and progress. Now, the inspection was attended by Embu Governor Cecily Mbarile, Senator Alexander Mundiki, Mbeere South MP Engineer Nebat Morioki, County Assembly Speaker Josiah Diriku, and MCAs and among others.
Nyinyi nasikia mko kwa 2 term, ni kweli? Mko 2 term? Mko kwa 2 term? Kwa sababu ya barabara umeingia 2 term. Kwa sababu ya lami yetu umeingia 2 term. Wacha nione ndio wale wako Nairobi wasikie tumeingia kwa 2 term. Na mimi nitazungukana na mambo ya maendeleo hapa. Mimi nitakuja hapa siku mingi hapa Mbeere South mpaka mchoke na mimi. Kwa sababu hiyo ndio kazi yangu. Ama niko na kazi nyingine? Hata next week nitarudi hapa na mradi mwingine ya maendeleo. The other week mimi narudi hapa. The other week mimi narudi hapa. Nataka nirudi nisirudi. Nirudi nisirudi. Nirudi nisirudi. Wacha nione wale wanasema nirudi. Kwa hivyo watu wetu wa Kangeta, msiwe na wasiwasi. Sisi, we are busy working for you. I want to assure you, this road from Gachoka Junction through Kangeta to Gashoreri and from Kangeta Junction to Kiemboini, that's between me, President Ruto, and your leaders, Governor Karinda, Mheshimiwa Neba, Senator Mundigi, sisi sote tutahakisha hii barabara tunaweka lami, twende tulete rais atufungulie hiyo barabara ikiwa imekamilika. Na unajua ikifika Kiomboini pale, mimi sasa naenda kutengeneza kutoka upande wa Kirinyaga. Ndio gari ya Mugoka ikitoka hapa inaenda na lami paka inashika pale Ngurubani, inaenda mpaka Nairobi faster. So that the economy of this area can develop. Ama mnasemaje? Ama nyinyi mnataka mzenye? Mnataka fitina? Mnataka kuongea mambo ya viongozi wengine hapa? Mnataka fitina? Mnataka kazi ama maendeleo? Huu ndio ule mwaka ambao mtaona mambo makubwa ambao yalikuwa yamezuiliwa hapo nyuma kwa sababu ya uchumi. We are going to see a lot of transformation this year between now and December. Barabara zetu zote tumezifufua. tumelipa madeni ya contractors wale walikuwa wametoka site.
The national government has intensified efforts to forge stronger partnerships with county governments and county assemblies in a bid to unlock Kenya's vast mineral wealth as a new revenue stream for both levels of government and host communities. Speaking during a sensitization meeting in Tharaka Nithi County between the county executive and the county assembly's mining committee, Cabinet Secretary for Mining and Blue Economy, Ali Hassan Joe, said that the ministry possesses comprehensive geological data indicating the presence of precious minerals across the country. Gold, he noted, remains dominant in several regions including Tharaka Nithi and West Pokot. Joe revealed that in Kakamega County, particularly in Ikolomani, where exploration activities are underway, mineral deposits are estimated to be worth billions of dollars.
Unajua that gold that you've heard has been found in Kakamega. Na mkaambiwa ni 6 billion worth of gold. Si ndio? Si kuna watu walikuwa wanachukua. Hata sahi we have allowed people to continue the artisanal. But artisanal, they can go wakienda sana 50 meters. Maybe 100, is it? Ile wakingangana mita 100 hapa chini. So hawa watu ambaye wamepata hii gold ya Kakamega wameenda chini. The first meaningful finding, ile ambayo imesema project is viable and is worthy for investment, was 990 meters. 900 and? Keep saying what was what? 900? About a kilometer. Say about a kilometer chini. Wameenda kilomita 1 chini. And they have plans to go to 2.5 kilometer chini. Watafata hiyo paka kilomita 2-3. In some instances where we're drilling, governor, in Pokot, it's another area where people should not suffer. Na huko tunaenda karibuni kwa sababu they are dominated by illegal mining. Yet there's so much wealth. Lakini watu wanadhulumiwa tu kwa sababu watu wanawadanganya. They give some woman 500 or 1,000 shillings and they are happy. That we're going to turn it around. We're going to change it. Because there are people who are now drilling. Some of them have reached they've done 1,000 meters. And the grades of gold that we're picking are so good. World-class standards of minerals we are finding in our country. Why should our people continue to be poor? Mining is always misplaced. Watu wanaongeaga mining kama vitu zingine, but mining is very critical in this country. Amenambia he found his colleague from Kilifi asking for 900 million. Sema huyu ana mine nini? Kaambia saruji tu. Saruji ya kujenga manyumba na mawe na ballast. Na yeye he's demanding from us 900 million of his 10% share of royalties. 20. Of his 20%, sorry. There is further 10% for the community. The 20% the county is demanding of us is 900 million. Then if you come to Kwale, we are releasing one mining site, Governor, one mining site that is known as base titanium. We owe the county Kwale 1.7? 1.7, but currently we are releasing 1.1 billion. 1.7 billion, and currently we are releasing 1.1 billion that had been gazetted by the Treasury to the county.
Right, now that particular story takes us on our first breather here on Morning Live. When you come back, we're going to tell you what exactly is happening in the dailies today. And of course, in the Standard newspaper this particular morning, it says, whose goons? And of course, there is a picture there of Interior PS, that is Raymond Omolo. And of course, this is a question that we've asked ourselves over and over again. You'll remember since 2024, since the first protest, anti-government protest, which the Gen Z actually protested for the finance bill. We've seen goons, and that was also witnessed in the better part of 2025 during the anniversary of the June 25th protest, and as well as the protest against the killing of Albert Ojwang. Right, we've actually seen goons with designed batons, new ones actually, and one will ask the question: are these goons buying these batons from the same person, or is it a calculated move from top officials? That's a question that the Standard is actually asking on the front page of the Standard newspaper this particular morning. It asks, whose goons? All right, tell us your thoughts on this particular matter through SMS line to 30599. You're live on Facebook and as well as on YouTube. We'll take a short breather here on Morning Live Part. We'll be back in just a bit. Right, welcome back to the program. This is Morning Live. My name is Macharia, and now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the newspapers today. And I'm having the Daily Nation newspaper and as well as the Standard newspaper this particular morning on the 25th day of February 2026. Now, top story on the Daily Nation, as you can see on the sidelines of your screen, it says the Russian machinery. All right, and of course, there is a picture there of Mikhail Lyapin, a Russian national and Russia's friend, deported last year on suspicion of running a rogue jobs syndicate, and as well as Kenyans are lured to join the Russian military with a signing bonus of 1.2 million, but some have paid with their lives. Now, 1,000 is actually the number of Kenyans fighting for Russia in Ukraine, according to an NIS dossier. Right, of course, just right beside that particular picture of Mikhail Lyapin, there is a picture there of unmasked Festus Arasa Obwamba as teetered between notoriety and anonymity. Now he has engineered the ouster of a senator, battled fraud charges, and is now wanted for sending Kenyans to fight for Russia. Right, that's a story on page 2 of the Daily Nation this particular morning. And of course, there is also a picture there of him on page 2 of the Daily Nation, where it says that Festus Arasa Obwamba had teetered along the thin line between notoriety and anonymity, which have culminated into trouble and made the 33-year-old one of the most wanted individuals by police and intelligence officers. Now, in just 9 months, he has been accused of defrauding desperate job seekers attempting to defraudulently obtain money from a dead man's bank account, and of working as a mercenary who helped recruit at least 1,000 Kenyans into Russia's military. Now, in between that, the registered United Democratic Alliance member engineered the removal of nominated Senator Gloria Oroba from office by filing an internal complaint with his party. Now, the High Court in October dismissed Ms. Oroba's appeal against the political party's disputes tribunal decision, which also declined to quash her expulsion from UDA and removal as a nominated senator. Now, National Intelligence Service dossier read to MPs on February 18th indicated that a stop order to a directive barring an individual from leaving the country has been issued against Mr. Obwamba for his alleged role in luring Kenyans to their death on the front lines of the Russia-Ukraine war. Right, that's a story exclusively on page 2. It says Russian mercenary unmasking man recruiting Kenyans for war. It's quite unfortunate, how some humans have turned to be just because of money. It's quite unfortunate, sending people to their death for desperation of money. All right, moving on to other stories making headlines in the Daily Nation this particular morning. Sifuna opened up to alliance with the United Opposition, where Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna has said that his ODM faction will explore a coalition with like-minded leaders, a craft of a formidable machine against President William Ruto's re-election. The ODM Secretary General assured his group will not divide the opposition bloc. That's on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Of course, we've actually seen what is actually happening in the Orange Democratic Movement, that is the ODM party, where we've seen the Linda Mwananchi faction that is led by Sifuna and Babu Owino and the likes. And of course, there is this other faction of Oburu Odinga, who's the party leader of the ODM party, which is called Linda Ground. All right, and we've seen these rallies, especially for the Linda Mwananchi one. We've seen the number of crowd that these two factions are pulling. You can actually see, let's say maybe in Kitengela, the recent was actually in Kakamega. We've seen the Kitengela one and the Kakamega one, and we've actually seen that of the Linda Ground Mwananchi led by Oburu Oginga, and you can actually see, the crowd that they're pulling, and I don't know what you make of that, and what does that actually means for ODM, even as we head to 2027. All right. Now, there is a growing possibility that the Linda Mwananchi Initiative, breakaway faction of the ODM party led by Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, will work with the united opposition to challenge Dr. William Ruto in the next 5 presidential year. Now, Mr. Sifuna, also the Nairobi senator, left no doubt that this time, or that his time in the Orange Democratic Party is coming to an end, with the only option be joining forces with the united opposition. Linda Mwananchi and the united opposition share the desire to make President William Ruto a one-term, and often use the term, or the slogan one term, as they champion their case. Right? Acknowledging that beating President William Ruto will not be easy, the senator called for a united front against Kenya Kwanza to seal loopholes and avoid dividing votes. Now, when asked whether he would be joining the united opposition side, the senator stated that it would be delusional to think of removing the sitting president without a well-calculated move such as joining forces. All right, that's on page 4 and 5. Of course, Edwin Sifuna was actually speaking to one of the local TV stations right here in the country. All right, moving on to a survey that was conducted by a government agency that revealed, counties that are leading in, they revealed that top 10 counties are leading in job creation. That's actually on page 7. And Murang'a County is actually leading with 98.3%. And as well as Kiambu County, 83.9%, Nakuru County, 87.3%, Kisumu County, 81.2%, Elgeyo Marakwet County, 79%, Kwale County, 78.9%, Lamu County, 79.9%, Machakos County, 80%, and as well as Nairobi County, 80.3%. That's according to an agency, a government agency, which actually ranked Murang'a, Nakuru, Kiambu, Kisumu, Meru, Nairobi City, Machakos, Lamu, Elgeyo Marakwet, Kwale, Laikipia, Nyeri, Kajiado, and Makueni counties among the 80 to 100%, leading in job creation, automation, and e-government services. Right now, Murang'a, Nakuru, Kiambu, and Kisumu, and as well as Meru County have been ranked as top of the counties in general in job creation services in a report released by a government agency. Now, the ranking of counties on job creation, e-government, and automation of services report by the Kenya Vision 2030 placed Murang'a at the top of a score of 98.3%, followed by Nakuru County at 87.3%, Kiambu County at 83.9%, Kisumu 81.2%, and Meru sharing the same. Now, at the bottom of the ranking were Baringo with 38.7%, Marsabit County with 38.4%, Tana River County 35.8%, West Pokot with 35.1%, Garissa County 30.1%, and as well as Wajir County with 28.8%. Now, the counties were assessed on how they are leveraging automation and digital platforms to improve service delivery, enhance revenue collection, and stimulate local economies. Now, the ranking focused on critical areas including job creation initiatives, ease and speed of accessing county services online, and the safety and reliability of county revenue management systems. Now, the findings paint a picture of uneven progress across 47 counties, with a handful emerging pace setters in digital transformation, while others lag significantly behind. Right, of course, we've actually seen some of these counties were actually ranked by some survey agencies, including Murang'a. We've seen Murang'a governor actually being commended for the work that he has done in Murang'a County, and of course, we've actually seen Murang'a being ranked top in some few other areas. Right, so this Murang'a being also top of this survey. This county is lagging behind, should actually learn from Macharia County, I believe. All right. Moving on to other matters making headlines on the Daily Nation. Lawmakers have rejected the IEBC's 63 billion Kenya shillings 2027 poll requests, and members of parliament have rejected a request of 63 billion by the Independent Electoral Monitoring Commission, that is the IEBC, for the 2027 general election. The lawmakers say that the 41 billion allocated by the National Treasury is sufficient for the elections. Now, a blunt message to the electoral agency. The National Assembly Justice and Legal Affairs Committee told the Commission to cut unnecessary wasteful expenditure from its budget to save billions of shillings. During a meeting with IEBC commissioners to discuss the budget policy statement for the 2026-2027 financial year, the MPs said that they would not allocate any more funds to the agency. All right, and I will agree with these lawmakers. The IEBC have been allocated 41 billion Kenya shillings to conduct elections. Now, the IEBC now, with the newly commissioned commissioners, the 6 commissioners, and as well as the chairperson, that is Erastus Edange Thakon, actually say that they actually need 63 billion Kenya shillings to run to the general elections come 2027. And one would ask the question, why the surge in this amount of money, from 41 billion Kenya shillings to 63 billion Kenya shillings. All right, and it's quite unfortunate, even flashing back on what actually happened during the by-elections. Chaos was witnessed in several constituencies where the by-elections were actually conducted, of course, during the exclusive interview on The Insight with Ambassador John C.W.E. He actually shared his insights, saying that if the commission embraces the blockchain technology, they will be required to use 36 shillings per voter. Now we use, with this 41 billion Kenya shillings allocation, we actually use 2,017 Kenya shillings per voter. Now one would wonder, with this 63 billion Kenya shillings, how would that reciprocate to per voter if with this 41 billion Kenya shillings we actually use 2017 per voter? How will this amount of money raise to maybe this will surge to approximately 3,000 per voter? All right, and it's quite unfortunate to hear of this money surging, and one will ask, if in 2027 we use 63 billion Kenya shillings, what amount of money will we be using 20 years later, 30 years later, 40 years later? All right. Of course, the lawmakers told the commission that they actually need to cut some of this budget, unwanted budgets, and the MPs say that 41 billion allocation by Treasury is enough. Election agency blamed for giving priority to non-essential areas. All right, that's what's up on matters to do with the IEBC, even as we head to 2027. Right, and of course, still in regards to that, the commission plans to use 6.1 billion to purchase 45,000 new chemist kits to replace obsolete ones bought in 2017. All right. Now on page 7 as well, on the Daily Nation, says Mbadi submits key Safaricom shares sale documents to MPs. The National Treasury Cabinet Secretary, that is John Mbadi, yesterday submitted to Parliament a copy of the cabinet memorandum that approved the sale of Safaricom shares to Vodacom South Africa, and the copies of the sale and purchase and valuation agreements. He also tabled the specially permitted procurement framework that the Treasury entered into with KCB Investment Bank to undertake the transaction. Now, the National Assembly's Joint Committee on Finance and National Planning and Privatization in Public Debt had recalled Mr. Mbadi to provide it with various documents that MPs had requested during an earlier appearance. Of course, this is a matter of, we've seen controversies regarding the sale of Safaricom shares to Vodacom, right? That's exclusively on page 7 of the Daily Nation newspaper. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines. I've seen a story right here on page 3. Let's take a look at that. On the reign of terror, return of dreaded border gangs. And on most Sundays, gospel musician Jimmy Gate prefers long reflective walks, as it is his quiet time to pray and think. But last Sunday, along Kiambu Road, the ritual nearly cost him his life. The morning, he noticed 2 men approaching him. Many times he had crossed paths with strangers before, often exchanging brief greetings as they passed. Right? What followed was a brutal assault that mirrors a growing pattern across Nairobi and is environs, with gangs of rogue border riders and accomplices targeting unsuspecting pedestrians. Now, he tried to run, but the ground was steep and he fell and rolled. Right now, he was pinned actually to the ground. Gates said that he saw death. Bleeding and disoriented, Gates struggled nearly a kilometer back to his car and managed to drive off, but near Waldi Degla, his strength drained. He stopped and screamed for help. Good Samaritans recognized him and rushed him to his aid, eventually getting him to hospital, where surgeons fought to save his hand. Of course, there are pictures there of Jimmy Gate. Of course, this is actually a worrying trend. We've actually seen, the resurgence of gangs in various counties. We saw in Mombasa County, machete-wielding gangs actually, raiding business people. Right? It's quite unfortunate. And the security team ought to do something in that particular area. Right? Moving on to the Standard newspaper this particular morning. It says, whose goons? Right? And of course, there's a picture there of PS, Interior PS, that is Raymond Omolo. And it continues to say that Interior PS Raymond Omolo is cast as a polished technocrat with a philanthropic touch, but in Nyanza, a darker narrative is taking hold as rival camps prepare for bruising political battles ahead of the general election. Allegations are mounting that state-backed empowerment networks have morphed into engines of intimidation, with guns shadowing rallies, disrupting meetings, and operating in full glare of the police. Now, supporters hail decisive leadership. Critics see a dangerous fusion of power, patronage, and fear that could tip a volatile region in chaos. That's a story on page 6 and 7 of the Standard newspaper. And of course, there are pictures there of people. I don't want to term them as goons. They're wearing reflectors, same writings. The reflectors are actually written Tutam at the back, all right? They're holding placards written Tutam. And one will ask the question, who hires these goons, all right? That's a story on page 6 and 7. Let's take a look at that and what the Standard has to say in regards to this. Now on page 6, it says that cases of police working with guns to disrupt meetings called by anti-government leaders are becoming common. From Witima Church in Nyeri To Kitengela, Kakamega and Kisii, police have been lobbing tear gas canisters and shooting indiscriminately during the rallies. Now, before his death, ODM leader Raila Odinga has signed an MOU with President William Ruto to stop the weaponing of state agencies. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has talked tough, questioning rogue officers and goons but they are still walking free even after killing and injuring innocent Kenyans. Now, church leaders have warned that country could go the Haiti way if the government continues to allow goons to operate with police. Right, of course, we'll remember that the opposition faction led by Rigathi Gachagua actually some few weeks ago actually marching to IG Kanje's office in Nairobi, to file complaints of these rampant attacks during their rallies. And the United Opposition will hold police officers, their seniors and IG accountable for violence in their political rallies. Speaking in Kisii town, where they had had a 3-day campaign rallies, the leaders questioned Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja against alleged continued use of security apparatus to abet violence in anti-government events. All right, and if you look closely at these events, we've seen the Oburu Odinga-led faction, that is the Linda Ground, they have actually been having rallies. We've seen no gun, we've seen no tear gas canisters being thrown to them. All right, and we've seen President William Ruto also holding rallies in several parts of the country, and we've seen no guns, we've seen no tear gas canisters. But the opposing side, the people opposing the government, we've actually seen, tear gas canisters. We've actually seen, what one may term as goons. We've actually seen, police, interfering with those political rallies, because, one would argue, if not the police who are having the tear gas canisters, then who has the access to access, these particular canisters? All right, and that begs the question. The opposition party, the Linda Ground faction led by Oburu Oginga, who's the party leader, they have had rallies, they have had, these public rallies, and there are no attackers, there are no guns, there are no police officers who are disrupting those particular rallies. We've seen President William Ruto, the head of state, having rallies in several parts of the country. No tear gas canisters thrown at him, no presence of police attacking disrupting the meetings. But the Linda Mwananchi and the United Opposition faction, we've seen what has happened. All right, during the Kitengela incident, we actually saw a goon who was captured by the mob, was beaten nearly to death. Right, and it's quite unfortunate, risking your life for a certain person who has paid you to disrupt a meeting. All right, quite unfortunate. And that's a story on page 6 and 7 of the Standard newspaper this particular morning. On page 2 of the Standard newspaper says, experts explain new anti-HIV jabs ahead of rollout tomorrow. And Kenyans eligible for the injectable HIV pre-exposure prophylaxis, that's a scientific name, that is PrEP, will receive at least 4 jabs in a year. The long-acting injection is administered twice a year, once every 6 months, but during the first visit, a client receives 2 injections to complete the initial dose. Individuals qualified for the jab will also be required to take oral PrEP tablets during the initiation of the first jab to ensure rapid protection. Now, further, after 24 hours, they will take 2 more tablets to complete the starting dose. Thereafter, the persons will only return to their 2 injections after 6 months. Yesterday, experts shared details on the lenacapavir jabs ahead of the launch tomorrow. They said that the drug has no major side effects apart from mild nodule to other on-site of injection, which gradually fades. Right, that's on matters healthcare on page 2 of the Standard newspaper. Of course, on page 3, Maradona wins 70 million property dispute against former husband. Of course, there is a picture there of Lucy Kabu, who is the Maradona, who has actually won the 70 million property dispute against former husband. You can take a look at that on page 3 of the Standard newspaper. Of course, on that particular page, on matters corridors of justice, court adjourns Rex Masai's inquest after prosecutor fails to appear, and a Nairobi court has postponed further hearings in the inquest into the killing of anti-finance bill protester Rex Masai after the director of public prosecutions-led state council failed to appear, citing engagement in an official training program. Milimani Magistrate Geoffrey Onsarigo allowed the adjournment yesterday after DPP State Counsel Justin Macharia, who is the leading the prosecution, could not attend hearings scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday due to a week-long training on counter-terrorism and financial crimes. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, that is the IPOA, the Law Society of Kenya, and the National Police Service did not oppose the request, paving the way for the matter to be rescheduled on to March 25th, 26th, and 30th of 2026. And one would ask the question, Rex Masai was actually killed some few years ago in 2024. The case is still in court. Someone is asked to appear in court, and he says that he is attending to other matters. Right? It's quite unfortunate, to see, justice being derailed 2 years, 3 years, and of course, our judiciary system ought to do something with the lagging of justice, right? Because people are losing trust with these judicial systems. All right, you're now up to speed with what you're waking up to this morning as far as news and the governance of this particular country is concerned. It is exactly 4 minutes past the top of the hour. Thank you so much for keeping me company until this particular minute. My name is Martin Macharia. We'll be keeping tabs with these particular developing stories, and of course we'll be bringing you in our subsequent bulletins later on at 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Coming up next is, the continuation of the Gospel Storm, EBN Gospel Storm 2026. Don't miss those particular sermons. My name is Martin Macharia. Once again, it is exactly 4 minutes past the top of the hour. Do yourself a lovely day. Enjoy the rest of your viewing, and as always, let's do this again when God says we do.